In precisely 5 days, the first criminal trial of a former American president is set to begin in New York City. And soon after that, a parade of witnesses is expected to take the stand. According to ABC News, several members of Trump's inner circle are expected to testify at his upcoming criminal trial. That list includes Rona Graff, Trump's executive assistant, Madeleine Westerhout, the former director of Trump's Oval Office operations, and Hope Hicks, Trump's former White House senior advisor, who was once considered one of his closest confidants. It is an open question whether or not they will give up the goods on their former boss. But today, Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg appeared to send a strong message to any potential witnesses who may or may not be considering lying for Trump on the witness stand. Alan Weisselberg, the former chief financial officer of the Trump Organization, was sentenced to 5 months in jail after Bragg's office prosecuted him for lying during his testimony in Trump's recent civil fraud case. Weisselberg is 76 years old, and this is his second stint at Rikers Island Jail. He served 3 months behind bars just last year for tax fraud. Joining me now is Jeremy Saland, former assistant district attorney in the Manhattan DA's office trial division and also a New York criminal defense attorney. It's great to see you.
To see you.
So I mean, it sure seems like a message to throw Alan Weisselberg in jail again at 76. I mean, it was already seen as kind of, a tough move to throw him in jail the first time, a second bid right before the criminal trial begins. Do you read it that way?
I see it not as a chilling effect that's going to adversely impact these witnesses to say we shouldn't testify,
right,
but it's going to be more in terms of a reality check that if you make believe and if you tell a story that isn't true and you misrepresent, we as prosecutors are going to do our homework and hold you accountable. And if we can put Weisselberg, an older gentleman, in custody, you can find yourself there too.
Yeah, right. I mean, and it would suggest come clean or else, right?
Or stay home.
Or don't come at all. I mean, when we talk about some of the witnesses that I just listed off, I mean, what is your expectation about how forthcoming they will be? Some of these folks have already testified in separate cases or to separate, law enforcement bodies or grand juries. I mean, how much of a lift do you think is it going to be to get them to speak the whole truth about what Trump did?
I think certainly they're going to see the writing on the wall that they have to be consistent if they've testified before in any capacity, because that inconsistency, again, could raise the same issue that Weisselberg ended up having to deal with. Yeah. So I would expect if they're going to be put on the stand and cross-examined, they're going to be relatively forthright, relatively being the key word here. Are they going to not recall certain things? Are they going to maybe sway a little bit? That certainly can happen. But if there is a testimony and there is a history, they're going to stay with that. Otherwise, that exposure can be huge. And they don't want to become the storyline. This is Donald Trump's storyline, not theirs.
Yeah. It's also kind of Michael Cohen's storyline, too, right?
This is very true.
One of the interesting sort of carve-outs, if you will, in this Weisselberg deal for the current Rikers Island sentence is that prosecutors agreed they would not call Weisselberg as to the witness stand during the upcoming criminal trial. That is interesting to me because the only person who can really directly refute Michael Cohen's testimony in some of the most kind of high-stakes, allegedly fraudulent dealings here is Alan Weisselberg, right? Like, if there's a defense witness that could undermine Michael Cohen's testimony, it's probably Alan Weisselberg, isn't it?
It is, but I think also Michael Cohen undermines Michael Cohen.
Yeah, well.
Because he is rich with all sorts of material that you can challenge him with, the things that he says, his intent, his motive, his change of story, his own convictions. So there's ample evidence there to challenge him. And if you recall, at one point, Trump said, you shouldn't even be able to testify, Michael Cohen, because of your history and what you've been found to misrepresent. And that's not how the law works. You can cross-examine him, but you can't preclude him. So, I think there's still going to be ample opportunities, but also the prosecution is not putting this solely on Michael Cohen's shoulders.
Yeah.
It's beyond Michael Cohen. It's not just the Michael Cohen sort of opportunity. It's beyond him. It's more.
Well, you can see already from the list of witnesses that we know about that this is not just going to be Michael Cohen, though he certainly will figure largely in it. It does seem, just reading the tea leaves, which have not been subtle, that Donald Trump does not want this trial to start, right? I think every single day this week, and it's only Wednesday, he has filed a request to stay the trial for some different reason each day, and he has been summarily rejected each and every time. How unusual is that?
To have Article 78 in this way is unusual.
And Article 78 is
it challenging basically the law's decision, the judge's decision, saying it's improper. I'm going to go to a higher court, the appellate court. give it to a judge and say, Judge, this is arbitrary and capricious. It's not based on the law, based on the fact. It's a mistake. And that's what he's trying to say. And he's going to fail, and he's going to fail. And in fact, he has failed. At some point, he has to move forward. The judge is saying this has to go forward. And, I think not to minimize or belittle the former president, but despite his facade and despite his boisterous behavior, he's a frightened little boy. He's really terrified about what potentially could happen to him. And any felony is not what's happening in Washington, D.C. or Florida, but it's a felony and it's real. And he sees Weisselberg. And this is sort of a day of reckoning that he's trying to avoid.
Well, yeah, actually, talk about a chilling message. If you're Donald Trump and seeing Alan Weisselberg go back to jail for perjury about the square footage of Donald Trump's apartment,
absolutely,
a bid at Rikers at the age of 76, that has to send a shiver down Donald Trump's spine.
Absolutely.
All right, well, perhaps there'll be 2 more requests in the next coming days. We'd love to talk to you. Watch your clock. If it ends in day. Jeremy, thanks for your time tonight.
My pleasure.
Great to see you.